We are now in section 3, the organizations and people dimension of the practice. There will be 2 questions from this topic in the exam. It would be a mix of understanding and application questions. The role questions, if any, would be at Bloom's level 2 of understanding, and organization structure questions, if any, would be at Bloom's level 3 of application. We will be delving into the responsibilities of the incident manager specialist role for this practice. Note that what I mean by specialist role is that it is not the same as the practice manager role. Every practice will usually have a practice manager role in an organization. So it's possible that the incident manager could be a practice manager, but we are not going to discuss the responsibilities of a practice manager. However, we'll focus on the specialist role within this practice, and that is the incident manager. And also an offshoot of that would be a major incident manager. And also important is to understand how the practice can be positioned within the overall organization structure. For example, should there be a dedicated team, etc. There is, of course, information about the competencies needed, but those are outside the exam syllabus. If you are doing the bundled exam, then you must know the competencies and some other tables that we will come across. But for the individual certification for incident management, the competencies and the table that we will delve into is not part of the exam. As I was indicating earlier, the practice guides, such as for incident manager or other, do not describe the practice management role, such as practice owner, practice lead, or practice coach, but they only focus on the specialist roles, such as the incident manager. And the role title can differ from one business to another, one organization to another. So ITIL roles are just suggestions rather than recommendations or even mandatory. And usually one individual can take on multiple roles, and one role may be assigned to multiple people as well. These roles are particularly relevant in the context of the practice purposes, the processes and activities. This table is not in scope for the exam except for the bundled certification, the monitor, support, and fulfill. And even there, we don't have to be too much concerned with this table, because the main topics for the exam, be it an individual separate certification or a bundled certification, is to understand the incident manager role and the responsibilities associated with that, and the team structure for incident management within the business. ITIL 4 has 5 competency codes: L, A, C, M, and T. As you can see here clearly, L is for leader, A, administrator, C, coordinator or communicator, M, methods and techniques expert, T, technical expert. While it is not so difficult to understand these 5 codes, every job in a business or in an organization can have job roles that are made up of a combination of such competencies. For example, a certain position might require leadership as a primary competency, followed by communication, followed by technical expertise. So we could create a 3-letter codes such as L, C, T. On the other hand, there could be another role wherein communication is most important, followed by administration, and followed by methods and techniques. Then we would have a different 3-letter combination, CAM. Now, it is not necessary that you can have only 3-letter codes. You can even have 4-letter codes and 5-letter codes. And therefore, what it means is in a multi-letter code for a job role, the first letter would be the most important competency required. And then it reduces in the order of their significance as we move from one letter to the next letter. So here we have 2 practice-specific roles, incident manager and the major incident manager. So what is an incident manager role? Generally, this role is performed by a dedicated person in most organizations with a similar job title of an incident manager. But in other organizations, it can be performed by the individual or a team who are responsible for the configuration item or for a specific service or a product with which the incident is associated. For example, a specific application may always have designated incident manager. And that individual could be the service owner of the application. And this individual can be also be the resource owner of a certain key CI, for example, a key configuration item. For example, the application relies a lot on database. Then the owner of the database CI could become the incident manager. And the competency profile is CMAT, so communication coordination, followed by methods and techniques. Then it comes administration and then technical expertise. Again, within incident management, we have seen the various processes and their activities. In each of those activities, the competencies required may differ. It is not necessary for all the incident management activities that the same CMAT holds true. Now, what does this incident manager really do? They coordinate incident handling within the entire organization, or they may be dedicated to a specific area. They may handle incidents for a specific geography, like a territory, or a specific service or product, or a specific technology area. It depends on the way the organization is structured and designed. They will have to do a lot of coordination, wherein multiple teams are involved in an incident. They would have to play a key role in the coordination between those teams. And they will also make sure they are watching, meaning monitoring, and following closely, reviewing the work that is being done by the teams that handle and resolve those incidents. They also enable awareness, create awareness of the incidents among the stakeholders, communicate status of the incidents across the relevant stakeholders within the organization and outside of it. They will also perform regular incident reviews and initiate improvements of the practice as a whole, improve the incident models and other handling procedures for incidents wherever appropriate. And they will also develop the organization's expertise in the incident management processes and other methods. Now, many times there may be a need to add an additional role known as the Major Incident Manager, or an MIM. It's very similar to the Incident Manager, but they will focus only on major incidents and not the non-major ones. We have seen that major incidents are ones which are more complex and which have larger impact, and there would be a certain criteria before an incident is labeled as a major one. For example, an outage of an entire major data center, or many users above a certain number are impacted. But there can be many other criteria as well. So for major incidents, this MIM will be the main point of contact, or a SPOC, and coordination for the major incidents. They actually have a lot more authority than a usual incident manager, because they may need resources, additional resources, and they may even have dedicated resources available to trigger for major incident management. For example, not only people, but other equipment, tools, budgets, etc. And access to the higher ups in the organization for quick decision making and to move forward quickly with major incidents. Now we look at the other part, the structure for incident management within the larger organization. And there can be questions such as, do we need a dedicated structure or a temporary structure, etc. So this depends on the overall structure of the organization, its own hierarchy and size, scale of the organization, and the nature of the value streams in the organization based on what they're delivering and how they're co-creating value with their stakeholders. As we know, incident management requires technical experts or specialists from different areas and with different levels of expertise and from different teams. And these specialists may work in different technical areas or domains, different products or services, regions, territories, or maybe allocated to certain consumer types and so on. And therefore, the method for the structuring of the incident management team will depend on the needs of the organization and the resources that they have. Therefore, the approach towards this should be flexible and meaning involve resources for incident management only as necessary from the various internal external teams. rather than having a dedicated team. And however, when an incident occurs, then there has to be effective cooperation between the different teams involved in handling and resolving incidents. So let's look at some of the structures that are possible. We have historically the tiered structures versus the more modern flat team structures. So by tiered structures, we mean we have such as level 1, level 2, level 3, and so on. The level 1 picks up the incident, then escalates to 2, and then to 3, and so on, to developers, etc., and designers when needed. So, and these different levels differed in their competencies, expertise, and specialization. The higher the level of the team, the support tier or level, the more they would be competent and expert in their area. And the aim, however, was to resolve most incidents at the lower level so that the cost would be less, and transfer incidents to the upper level, meaning escalate only if needed, meaning when they could not be resolved at the lower level. And there were clear boundaries between the different levels. What would level 1 should do, what will level 2 do if they were escalated to, and similarly for level 3, etc. And there were rules of engagement on when and how to escalate to the next level of support, and even the response time from the various levels. Those would be more internal operational level agreements rather than signed up with the customer in the form of a service level agreement. But one of the challenges in such a structure is lack of collaboration, because it's sequential escalation and the information flow can be slow, and therefore the resolution time can be extended or prolonged.